What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Heavyweight Nation podcast. As you guys can see, Matthew, classic co-host, is down below. And to the left of me, we got, just a guy who's pretty much done it all in the sport of wrestling, four-time All-American, four-time Big Ten champ, Nathan Tomasello. Nathan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Of course,
Appreciate it.
man. Of course. You're one of the names that gets brought up when you talk about the sport of wrestling. There's just not a lot of guys that have succeeded as much as you have in your whole career. So just awesome to be able to sit down and have a chat with you.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate the kind words. It's been a journey, but I'm grateful for what I've accomplished and excited about the future. So
Yeah, man. And I guess we'll throw back here. When did it start? When did Nathan Tomasello become Nathan Tomasello? When was your first wrestling practice? Who got you into the sport? Talk a little bit about the beginning of your career.
yeah, great question. So I started when I was 9 years old, and I had no clue what wrestling was at the time. My parents didn't do it. And so I had a friend on the street that became one of my close friends. And we were probably the only two kids around our age in that neighborhood, and we hung out a lot. He picked up a flyer for youth wrestling practice, and that was in fourth grade. And I really wasn't like into what wrestling was because I thought it was WWE. I was like, I'm not gonna do this. It seems kind of weird, but he kept convincing me to go with them to practice. And I was doing other sports, and one of my other sports practices got canceled. I remember my dad's like, "Hey, you should try this. Like, why not go up with him for the evening, see if you like it." And so I got to youth wrestling practice as a fifth grade kid, and at the time they were doing drop steps and then hand fighting drills and just some takedowns. And I remember at the end of the practice, the coach was like, "So what'd you think, Nathan?" I was like, "Well, it's unique, it's interesting, I kind of like it." And so he's like, "Why don't you come up to our match day on Sunday? We'll have you wrestle the match. Why not? Have some fun." And I went and wrestled a kid that had placed at the state tournament the year before, and I lost to the kid, but it was like a 3-2 match. And I remember my youth coach being like, "Dude, you got some potential. You need to stay with it." And so, long story short, my youth coach became a little bit of a dad figure to me, as well as just kind of helping me in my journey from youth through middle school. And then I got alongside of some other great coaches in club, as well as my high school coach, and then all the way through college and now in the international scene. So it's been quite a journey, but yeah, I started as a fifth grader, and originally I wasn't sure. And the thing I really thought was cool about it is it was so like unique from other sports. Like, it was really on you and learning the moves and how to stay in great position and just conditioning, everything like that kind of was interesting for me.
Yeah, I feel
Incredible.
like that's something we've been hearing a lot. Either they joined fifth grade from a flyer and everyone thought it was WWE. I know I did when I first started, but yeah, everyone said that if you're a youth program, get some flyers out there because that's how everyone
Need to.
started.
Yeah, I see it a little bit at the local gym. They put up a youth flyer, and I kind of like it because it brings back memories. But seriously, like, word of mouth and like flyers sometimes go a long way, rather than just because I know right now we're in kind of the social media realm, but like paper flyers are great. So
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like we heard, like Matt said, we hear it so often. They'll be like, "Oh, the school sent a flyer home in my backpack when I was in third grade," and then all of a sudden, now I'm a three-time state champ and now a national champ. It's like,
yeah.
it's crazy to think. So you get into high school and kind of talk a little bit about the school you went to, high school, and kind of how your high school career went leading up to you going to Ohio State.
Yeah, so in middle school, I was wrestling for two different clubs, and I started to get pretty good. I took second as an eighth grader at the state tournament, lost a heartbreaker in overtime to a nationally ranked kid, and I used that kind of as motivation. I took fifth as a seventh grader, second as an eighth grader, and I had not won a state championship at that point, but I was getting closer towards it. And so I started looking at a couple programs in the area, and Northeast Ohio just has good wrestling. There's a lot of good wrestling schools as well as tradition. And so I looked at the traditional powerhouse. I looked at St. Edward's, and I looked at St. Ignatius. I looked at Padua Franciscan. I looked at Walsh Jesuit, and I looked at CVCA. And so as I was looking at the schools, I felt like CVCA was kind of the one that stood out to me. It was a smaller Christian school, but it had really good wrestling as well as soccer. And at the time, I was still playing soccer. And I went on a Disney duels trip with the team. And I really fell in love with the coaches there as well as some of the wrestlers. Some of them that were wrestling in the club were going to CVCA as well. And so and I just thought it was a great place for me to continue to get better in wrestling as well as grow as a person and pursue my goals in athletics. And so the other thing I liked about that school is the high school head coach was actually giving me free reign to do club stuff. And sometimes high schools get really I don't know, just they don't sometimes allow you to go to your club coach. And I felt like that's where you really make gains throughout the high school years. And so long story short, they had a good program. They've had one other 4-time state champ. I ended up winning 4 state titles for the program, but they had Harry Lester that came out of the program, who was Olympian for Team USA in 2012 for Greco-Roman. And he was, I think, a 2-time world bronze medalist. And he came out of that program as well as a couple other bigger names. And so I went into the state tournament, and I think I was seeded first or second. I had a good season. I took 4th at the Ironman as a freshman. I lost to a kid from Blair in the quarters and came back and took 4th, and then ended up winning the state championship as a freshman and went to Fargo that summer. And that's when I really felt like people are starting to look at me at colleges. I ended up winning Fargo that summer, and I made a cadet world team. And I think that's where I really started to focus more on wrestling going into my sophomore year. I was doing soccer as a freshman, but my sophomore year, there was a former national champion named Brian Dolph in the area of coaching at another high school. And he was offering some private lessons with me and another kid from the high school. And that's when I really made the decision that I thought wrestling was going to be long-term for me. And I started having some visions to be a national champion in college. And so I'll fast forward. I won the Ironman 3 times. The next 3 years, I won Fargo 3 times, and I won the next 3 state titles and became the 25th Ohio State champion, 4-time state champion. And for me, that was a really cool part of my journey. I felt like I accomplished a lot of big goals as a high school wrestler and felt like I built a lot of good friendships at that school.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more you could do in high school. I mean, especially winning Fargo as a freshman, I feel like that's something you really, really don't hear about often. I mean, there's a lot of freshman state champs, but a Fargo champ as a freshman, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I felt fortunate. I had good coaches, and they were pushing me to try to win that thing because I took 3rd the year before as a cadet, and my first time as a junior, I won it at 112, I believe, I think it was 112. And so going into my sophomore year, really, that summer really propelled me. I felt like that summer more than any other summer, I started jumping levels because I was starting to really focus in on becoming the best I could be in the sport. I was doing club practices. I went on the junior duels team for Team Ohio, and I think we took 2nd as a team in Oklahoma for the junior duels and wrestled at the Cadet Filas and some of the other bigger tournaments. So,
yeah, I mean, just incredible. And, so what was it like your recruiting journey? I know, obviously you end up at Ohio State. So kind of talk a little bit about what that was like, being such a high ranking recruit. You pretty much had, I'm sure, the pick of the litter at what college you wanted to go to.
Yeah, I mean, I was really kind of looking at schools a little later, I think, in the game. I didn't really focus as much on the recruitment process until probably after Fargo, or at least going into Fargo my junior year. That summer, I started really looking at schools. I had talked to some coaches, but the recruiting was a lot different when I was younger. You had letters you got in the mail, and you probably had one phone call once a month with the coach. So it was a lot less texting, a lot less calls. you just didn't have as much relationships yet. And then going into my senior year, I took all 5 official visits. I took 2 unofficial visits. And so I really wanted to make sure I was picking the right college, because I felt like, it's not just 4 years of your life. For me, I had goals of the Olympics and Worlds afterwards as well. And I wanted to make the right decision. So it'd be more than 4 years, hopefully 8 to 10, And so I took 2 unofficials. I looked at Penn State and Michigan and unofficials, and I took my officials to Purdue, Ohio State, Iowa, Oklahoma State, and Minnesota. And honestly, it was tough because I felt like there was a couple schools that really stood out, and I kind of brought my people that were real close to me in a meeting and went through the positive and negatives of every program. And I just felt like Ohio State at the time had the edge over some of the other programs. And I had friendships with some guys going to that school already. And they had a good Olympic development program, as well as they were trending up. I think they had took 7th or 8th the year before, and they were really starting to become a powerhouse program. And Bo Jordan, as well as Kyle Snyder, had already committed. And I knew that those two were in the same realm as far as what they wanted to accomplish when they went to college. So yeah, I made my decision probably in the late October of my senior year in high school. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, honestly, the visits are so great. They wine and dine you. They take you out. They make you feel really special. That's what makes it challenging sometimes, because there's a lot of good people in the sport, and it's tough to say no to some people. But then the day, like, they understand. You understand. It's like, you just got to do what's best for you sometimes.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the times at the end of the day, it's a business. It all comes down to, where you're going to be able to compete and kind of perform at your best. But just what a recruiting class. I mean, you got yourself, like you said, Bo Jordan, and obviously Kyle Snyder, who is one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. So what was that kind of like, to go to college with guys like that, having, I'm sure there were some other hammers on the team at that time when you came in. So what was your kind of your early days like at Ohio State?
Yeah, great questions. So my freshman year, Bo and I roomed together. We both won our wrestle-offs, but Tom Ryan at the time wanted us to redshirt because he knew the 2015 team had a really good shot at winning the Nationals. I think honestly, some people need a year to really get used to everything that goes into college wrestling, right? You got your classes, your first time you're away from your parents, as well as the grind of 2-a-days and just wrestling 23, 24-year-old men as opposed to 15 to 17-year-old boys. So we both redshirted, and then Kyle was training at the Olympic Training Center, and he ended up moving in. Me and Bo roomed for 1 year, and then Bo moved out and Kyle moved in. And so Kyle and I were roommates for 4 years. And that year, Kyle and I really, I think, bonded a lot as freshmen because we both wanted to be national champs as freshmen, And so even on Friday nights, right, guys are going out having a good time. We'd be going back for another workout, be doing extra pull-ups, extra rows, stuff like that, And it was cool because they were looking at captains going into that 2015 season. And I remember they chose Kyle and I, as well as Bo and Logan Stieber. And Logan was the only upperclassman to be the captain. And that was a pretty cool honor because obviously they saw stuff in some of the young guys that could propel the team to reach new levels that the program had not seen before. So that was really cool. We did a pretty tough preseason. We did a lot of running and just getting our legs stronger going into the college season. And I mean, I really think that year, the year we won it, was just crazy because we went through some highs and lows. And even before the Big Ten championships, we lost the dual meet that we probably shouldn't have lost. But I really feel like sometimes the losses are good things because you learn a lot from them and it humbles you. it makes you hungry to get back and to compete even better. So
Definitely. And what was it kind of like having a guy? I mean, you don't get much better in a college career than Logan Stever.
yeah.
A four-time Big Ten champ, four-time national champ, won a team trophy in there as well. What was it like having him to kind of look up to, or if you had any, kind of issues being able to go to Logan and kind of have a guy that was that high of a caliber in your wrestling room being able to train with you?
Yeah, I mean, he was a professional. He was when I got there, he was a junior, and he had 1-2 at that time. And in the room, he was a professional. He knew what he wanted to get out of the practice, and he knew when to stop. Right? Some guys sometimes, you got to know when your body needs a break. You got to know, even going into the nationals, like he had his bike chose out after the first day, so he'd get his weight off. And like he had someone sit on the bike. He knew what he was going to eat before the tournament, during the tournament, right? And, he knew his warm-up routine. And then he was real aggressive to start, and he just believed in himself. And so I think, he was a leader more by example in the room than he was vocal. He was kind of more introverted. And so we didn't have a ton of conversations, but some of the conversations we did have, I felt like I learned a lot from just listening to what he had to say and his own journey, and just watched what he did in the room. So it was cool because, they ended up having him last the year. My freshman year, he ended up being the last match, and I ended up being the third last match. And so I ended up winning the national championship. And then a match later, I saw Logan won his fourth, and that was kind of a cool moment for me to go ahead of him and then help secure the team trophy. So
yeah, definitely. And you've completed almost everything there is to do in wrestling, and through it you've been very fortunate of just having the most incredible wrestlers surrounding you, and I'm sure that's definitely helped you elevate you to that next level that everyone wants to be at.
Yeah, I mean, it sharpen each other, right? You want to find guys that have the same mindset, as well as every day trying to get 1% better. I know that's cliche to say, but if you have that mindset, you really are going to make improvements, because you're going to be first one in the room. You're going to ask a lot of questions. You're not going to have too much doubts. You're going to be confident in what you're doing, and you're just going to succeed. And I feel like there's not a secret formula sometimes. Obviously, you have God-given abilities that get you places, but also, you add in the work ethic and the right mindset. That's what success happens in the sport, in my opinion. And then you have coaches that really care about you in your corner, that are people that you're going to be friends with after the sport's over. So
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, just some incredible teammates, and talking about, now obviously you're on to the senior level. You're competing in freestyle, you're going ahead and, trying to make world teams and competing, trying to get on the Olympics as well. And I think you're in Michigan now, right? You're in the Wolverine RTC.
Yeah. I just started training up in Michigan this past January, and I feel really fortunate. We actually have had a great relationship, even though we were rivals back in college. I've had a good relationship with Sean Bormet and some of the assistant coaches up there. And I just felt like, for me, it was a really good place for me to continue my technique, as well as get better in freestyle. And it's still close to my support system, which is Cleveland based. And they've had proven guys in it, right? Mason Parrish just won the national championship. And then they have an two-time Olympic gold medalist, six-time world champion coach in Sergey Beloglazov, as well as Kevin Jackson on the Michigan wrestling staff that's also Olympic champ, world champ, and guys that want to succeed in the same way. I mean, I got Jaden Cox in the room, as well as Alex Derringer in the room. They literally just brought in a guy from Dagestan that trains in the U.S. and he's done competing now, but they brought him in this week and next week for me to just train with, to get an international feel, a foreign feel, as well as just a guy that's really tough in parterre. And so that's been good. I really feel like I've been making gains in the room, and just enjoying the process and getting myself ready to make the world championship team this year.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that it seems like that's going to be, the most important stuff for you is, to be able to get that international feel while being in the US still. So that, I mean, that's awesome. Was the move pretty easy for you out to Michigan? You think it was, obviously in the best interest for you to make a world team?
Yeah, I had actually thought about it after I graduated, and it's kind of coming full circle. We had some conversations in the fall about it, and I just felt like everything kind of fell into place. I was up there training a little bit, and I talked to Sean about things, and he's like, "We really believe you can still do this thing and compete at a high level and pursue your goals of being an Olympic champion." And so after a couple of weeks of being up there, I just felt like it was the right situation. People treated me really well, and had a lot of respect for some of the coaches, as well as having good people in the room helping me get better. And in the same role, I'm trying to help others get better in their own careers as well. And so it's just been a good move personally for me. I think it's been refreshing, and I've enjoyed just being around the different system and learning some new techniques and pursuing the Olympics, so it's been good, man.
Obviously, and we keep bringing this up in a lot of our videos. It's like, I feel like you always used to hear you can't wrestle forever, and it's just, for us young guys, seeing what you older guys are doing, it's just like, it's really inspiring to see that you guys are still going after it. You're still chasing the Olympics, guys like yourself and Dake and David Taylor and Jordan Burroughs, all are guys who are, have, wives or are, getting ready to get married and ready to settle down and stuff, but they're still able to go out there and compete.
Yeah. I really appreciate putting me in some of those good company of people. I just feel like the passion to compete, the love for the sport, the love of learning, and just the belief that, I still got more left in the tank. That's what I told Sean. I'm like, I'm 28. I'm going to be 29 this coming summer. And I just feel like for men, your peak isn't until your upper 20s. Even though you're considered old in the sport because you graduated college, you see some of the professional athletes in other sports doing it at a very high level when they're 28, 29, 30 years old. And so why not do it in the sport of wrestling? I see it a lot different than I did when I was an 18, 19-year-old kid as opposed to a 28-year-old guy. And I really appreciate just the learning that I've gotten from high-level coaches, as well as just what I've learned from just showing techniques and coaching kids.
And, the way I always thought of it was like, as long as you're, able to take care of yourself and take care of your family and, being able to, provide for you, your either your future wife, your girlfriend, whatever it will be, then why not? If you're healthy and you're wrestling at that high level and you're still competing well, then there's no negative side to you going out there and trying to make a world team and trying to wrestle for the Olympics.
Yeah, definitely. If you have that ability to wrestle forever, why not wrestle forever? And doing it, especially at the level you are, there's no reason to stop.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. Man, that's how I feel. It's like, it's just a fun sport. It's a very tough sport, but you get a lot from it. And it's just part of life, part of my life. It's what I've done since I've been 9 and now I'm 28. It's just, when I talk to people about it, they're like, we're all in for you. We're excited for you. We think you can do it, and I feel like I've been given another opportunity and I'm excited. I feel like I'm in the right system, and I do feel like I'm better than I was when I won the nationals. So I'm excited to see where this summer goes, and continue to get better and refine things, and just be around the like-minded people. I mean, that's what I told Sean when I was talking to him. I missed being around high-level people, because it's just, once you're away from the sport for a little bit, because I took about a year away, was coaching, doing some stuff outside of the sport, and I just felt like I missed it a lot, and I wanted to be around people that wanted to get better every single day, want to pursue something that makes you better, right? Even if you don't get to it, it still makes you better. And it's just something that, for me, I talked to my fiance about it. She's like, Nate, you've been talking about it for months. You got to do it. And she's been really supportive, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, that's definitely great to have that support and everything. And I mean, you set out a goal to win states, you won states. You set out a goal to win a national title. I mean, you're doing everything. And I guarantee you set out a goal to be an Olympic medalist, Olympic champ. I have no doubt you can do that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I watched Thomas Gilman do it in 21. I was third at the Olympic trials. I lost a real tight one to Vito. And Thomas is a guy I've beaten before. We've had close battles. He's won more matches than I've won, but I see what he's done, and he's a fierce competitor. He makes me better every time we wrestle, and I'm like, why not, right? He was so close to winning Olympic gold himself. I'm like, I'm at that level. That's what Sean tells me, as well as some of the other coaches like KJ. And, the more you talk about it, the more I really believe it comes into fruition. I mean, I listened to the same thing with Matt Ramos, right? I watched him wrestle a little bit this season, and it's like he talked about him beating Spencer, right? And it just happened. When you believe it and you speak about it, it just gives you it happens sometimes, and just like when you're doing it, like everything's in sync. Because at the end of the day, you have a 6-minute match to put everything out there, and it comes down to a game of seconds and inches and little positions, right? Like that could determine whether you win the Olympic gold or, you're second on the Olympic ladder.
Like Gable. I mean, Gable didn't win his Olympic gold until what, the last 18 seconds?
Yeah.
It just so happened that he was able to get behind him and score that takedown. And the Matt Ramos thing, it's obviously, a super important thing to think about. Like he said in that interview after he lost at the duel, he said, next time I get him on his back, he's not going to get up. And he did it. He was able to get him on his back again, and he got this, the stick, and kind of shocked the world. And I mean, I think, that would definitely be something, you'd be able to do, come, world team trials and, Olympic trials whenever you're getting ready to make that last push for a world team.
Yeah, I appreciate that. At the end of the day, it's just fun, man. It just gives you a story to tell, as well as what you've overcome in your own journey. And just, it's just a fun sport. And that's what I try to keep in the back of my mind. Because at points you can be burned out. At points you can be going through, and it's just a tough period, whether you're a little beat up or you're going through the grind of 2-a-days. And you got to just remember, I do this because I really enjoy it. I enjoy how tough it is. I enjoy learning new techniques, and I want to see if I can compete with the best guys on the planet, And that's what I see with a lot of the best guys in the sport, is they're willing to put it on the line anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, and I think, being able to just compete at that high of a level and, stay relevant in the sport is, what people like to say, because we see a lot of times, guys kind of will get really close. They'll get, either second or third, and then, they kind of dwindle off again. And maybe they come back for another time and they get second or third, and then they kind of dwindle off. And then, they dwindle so far that you don't see them again. And like you said, you got third, you took that year off to kind of, realize, what did you really want in life? And I think a lot of people, give up a little too soon in their career. You see a lot of people kind of like, okay, well, can't wrestle forever. I made a couple attempts to make a world team. I didn't make it. It's time to, kind of check into reality a little bit. But I think it's awesome. I think it's great that you're, going another stab at it. And especially if you believe that this is the best, the best wrestling shape or the best wrestling that you've been doing in your whole career, then it's going to be exciting to watch, world team trials.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, in 2017, I made my national team. I took third at the world team trials as a junior in college, and then in 2021, I took third at the Olympic trials, and then at the world team trials, I took second. And I feel like, at that point, I just feel like it is. you're at your high point of your game. I've had a year of coaching and teaching the sport underneath me, and now I feel refreshed and my body's feeling good, and I'm ready to make this push again and compete with some of these guys that I've had real tight matches with. That's what I told Sean. It's like, we're gonna have some battles coming in April and June coming up, and I'm excited for it. I'm hungry for it. And the year I won the nationals, I felt the same way. I felt like I went through some highs and lows in the season, started putting some stuff together, and believed that I was good enough to do it.
Yeah, man. And I think, we talk about it often. It's all about peaking at the right time. If you could, if you're able to peak, right when you need to go, and you're able to, go ahead and get the upper hand on some of these guys that you took some, some tough losses to, then, who knows? You could be that, though, the world team, the world team member, and, being able to go and, represent Team USA.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It'll be in Serbia. Anytime you get a chance to compete at that level, it's just a great opportunity. And it's just cool, being part of the national team, the world team, and still be involved with just the college level guys. I just think that the reason the U.S. has done so well is these RTCs that have been planted around with some of the best colleges have helped some of these 17, 16, 15-year-old kids that come up and train really refine their techniques and get better at a high rate, And that's what has separated, I think, the U.S. from being, if you look in the early 2000s, weren't about like in the team race trying to win it every single year for the world championships. And now it's like every year they're top two in the world, and guys at every single weight have a chance to medal in the world championships, which is a great thing.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be seeing you wrestle is going to be very exciting. Just hearing you talk, I know we're ready to watch something very special happen.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Great to see. And I know you've wrestled, some of the best in the world, and they've had some tough losses, some amazing wins. I want to know who you think your toughest opponent was.
Wow. Man, I get asked that actually more than you guys think. And I always look back, and it's tough to pick out one guy that really was like, all right, it's tough there's probably a combination of guys, right? Like every year when I was in college, there's always one guy that was real tough that we had some barn burners with, right? So I would say Spencer Lee's a real great competitor. I wrestled Nico Magalunas a few times. He's a great competitor. Thomas Skillman's always a real tough competitor. Even Coleman Scott, I wrestled Coleman Scott. Like he went down to 57 for the Olympic year in 2016, and that's when I was a young buck. And he had these go-go gadget arms because he was so long and it's so fast. I was like, dude, what the heck? And I've rarely ever been teched in a freestyle match, and I got teched by Coleman Scott. I was like, geez, man. So that was another guy that stood out to me.
And if you had to have, the match of anyone in the history of wrestling, and you could get a match, your ideal match, who would it be with?
Wow, anyone in the history?
Anyone
Man,
history,
I would like
anyway.
to wrestle the Olympic champ from 2021, that Guev from Russia. I think he'd be someone that I've watched a lot of video on. I haven't wrestled him yet, but he's very, very tactical and smart with his wrestling, and he knows when to score at the right time. And I just feel like he's someone that I could hang with and beat if I get to my scores.
Yeah,
so
man.
he'd be fun.
And, kind of going back on, the topic of, you and your senior level stuff, coolest place you've ever competed at? What was the best trip that you've taken so far across the country?
Wow. One of my first international tournaments was to Minsk, Belarus, which was actually called the Medved Games. And Alexander Medved's one of the biggest names. He's really well known over there. And I remember being at that training camp and then going at the tournament. There's some really good wrestlers at the tournament. And I just remember afterwards, after you got done, we went to this place that one of the foreign relations guys knew. His name's Paulie. He's on usually all the USA wrestling trips as a foreign ambassador. He talks to the other coaches and stuff like that. We got done with the tournament. I took second at the Medved, which was a pretty important tournament because I wrestled some pretty good guys in the tournament. And I remember going back and we went to this place that had steaks, but they put blueberries and like the sauce of blueberries on top of the steaks. And I remember like that being like an awesome meal. And we all kind of like bonded as a team USA during it. And there's other guys around my weight it was cool to like hang out with, like Frank Pirelli, I think was on the trip, and Joey McKenna, a couple other guys. I thought it was just a fun trip to be at, and just cool area. So that was probably one of my most memorable ones, I would say. That was back in 2017.
Awesome.
Well, that steak sounds delicious.
I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't know what to think, because early on I was like, well, steak's kind of more salty, and then you got the sweetness of the blueberries, but it was a good combination. So it was cool.
Might have to give that a try. You know, I love my food.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, man. So we just have some questions for you that we come up with. I know we asked the fans for questions. I think we got one valuable question out of some of the things people left you. One of the fans wants to know what do you think the biggest difference is between Michigan RTC compared to the other RTCs that you've trained at?
Yeah, I think one of the things is they're all very professional. Ever since I've been there, all the coaches have been really professional, been great. You know, they put the rivalry aside from my college years, and they welcomed me as one of their athletes, as one of their people, which has been great. And they've had a long-standing one. I mean, they put Andy Horvat, who was also an Ohio wrestler at the time in high school, wrestled for Michigan. He was on the 2008 Olympic team. And then you had a couple other guys make the Olympic team over the years. So they've always had guys that have been vying for the Olympics. Jake Herbert in 2012, I believe, was on the Olympic team. He was training at Cliff Keen's RTC. And so they've had a good tradition. They have like 8 or 9 guys in the same boat as me trying to make the Worlds and Olympics. And they got a very good training center. I mean, it was one of the best ever when it was built, and it still is 10 years later. So, like whatever you need. They got 3 big mats that are all Olympic mats. They got a Gatorade machine. They got a bunch of pre-workout, post-workout snacks. They got a whirlpool and a hot tub. They got the weight room above the wrestling room. Like whatever you need, they usually have. Plus, they have a bunch of gear. So it's just a really cool environment, good place to be at. And yeah, I mean, it's been great.
Yeah. So we got some good questions for you coming up here. Some wrestling stuff, some non-wrestling stuff. We're gonna try to get to the non-wrestling stuff. Nathan, what's your favorite cheat meal? If you're not eating clean, not watching your weight, what's the favorite cheat meal?
I would say pizza. I like pizza a lot. Pepperoni, chicken, barbecue chicken. That's always definitely, if I go places, like I'll have pizza, and it's something that's great. That or a big cheeseburger and French fries. Those are like the 2 like cheats, and then I'll have ice cream as well. So I love ice cream. That's like my favorite dessert. So that's typically what I'll have after a bigger tournament and celebration and yada yada. So
what's the go-to ice cream flavor?
Man, I like cookies and cream a lot. I think it's probably my number 1, and then buttered pecans probably my number 2, and peanut butter chocolate chips my number 3.
That's a good list right there.
It's a good list.
Yeah.
The second butter pecan we've heard.
Yeah, butter pecan's apparently a popular flavor between wrestlers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just creamy. I like the creaminess of it, and I don't know. My parents liked it when I was younger, so I think that was part of the reason I liked it. I like the flavor.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. If you had to, I mean, through your time, you wore probably 100 wrestling shoes, if not more. If you had to pick your favorite wrestling shoe you've ever worn, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. I've actually just started wearing the same one because I had a buddy find it, and he told me he got a pair. He found a pair, and I was balling about it. But it's the Rule-Ons. I like ASIC Rule-Ons. They're my favorite by far. I wore them when I won the national championship. I wore them every single state championship that I won. And It's just the comfortability of them, the grip on the bottom and the sides are great, and just the durability of the shoes great. I just think that's one of the best shoes I've ever put on. And it's just crazy because I'd done private lessons with a dad and his son back when I was in high school. And this dad kept following my career, and he literally reached out to me about 2 months ago. I was like, hey, are you still a big Rulon guy? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, I found a pair of black and gold ones. I'd love to send you it just for helping my son. He's doing great. And that was like so random. And so he's like, all I want you to do is wear them at the U.S. Open. So I'm breaking them in right now and wearing the Rulons going into the Open.
There you
That's
go.
Awesome.
Nato's got a fresh pair of Rulons to bust out at I want to know where that guy was able to find a brand new pair of Rulons.
Right?
Though. Like,
oh, I was shocked. I don't know.
Feel like every pair I've ever seen, they're like kind of old, kind of beat up a little bit, or like you could tell that they've been like either remade or like repurposed. But
yeah,
nah, to find like an old pair of Rulons that was barely worn or never worn at all, that's pretty crazy.
Crazy. He's definitely a shoe guy because I remember that same thing in high school. He'd find pairs of shoes that like people were like shocked that they were like in good condition. So I should ask him how he found it, but I'll have to message him at some point and be like, dude, because I think he's coming to the U.S. Open. So I'll have to talk to him, which is great. He's just a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, he's gonna be your shoe plug.
Yeah, seriously, tell me about it.
Anything you need, yeah.
So just talk a little bit about what do you do, Nato, outside of wrestling? You know, what do you do to kind of get your mind off of just competing?
Yeah, great questions. I like anything outdoors. So when I do clinics, if I get asked to do wrestling clinics, like I did one in Utah a couple of weeks ago, we did a lot of sightseeing. We went hiking outdoors, which was great. And I like fishing, which is fun. And just honestly, just hanging out with friends outside of the sport and just like watching a movie is great. Like anything competitive, I love. Like if we're doing cornhole, I'm always up for cornhole. If we're doing top golf, bowling, anything, like those are some things I really enjoy. And just going for hikes or bikes out because there's a national park in Cleveland, and usually in the summers I go for long bike rides, 15, 20-mile bike rides around the national park and just enjoy nature.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like even when you're not competing, you're competing.
Oh, yeah. My fiance always makes fun of me about it, so it's great. She knows I'm a competitor, whether it's wrestling or it's anything. So
yeah, 80 competing at bingo.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
I get heated. We have the family get-togethers. We always do some kind of card game. It always gets highly competitive. It's just great.
Yeah, I mean, and that's awesome just to kind of keep that competitive edge sharp, even when you're not on the mat. But that'll be fun to see when you're in your old days competing in the bingo competitions. You know, some chips might fly off the table at the retirement home.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It goes fast. Time goes fast. So I'm trying to just enjoy the journey, man. Because I mean, I literally remember being a freshman going into college, and now I'm one of the older guys trying to finish off my wrestling journey on a high note. So
yeah. And this last question here, you know, we've asked it at this point, I want to say about 145, almost 150 times every episode that we filmed. You know, you could take three of any of your college teammates. So we'll just go to the Ohio State. We'll do Ohio State team. Three of your Ohio State teammates with you into the zombie apocalypse. Who would they be and why?
Well, Kyle Snyder definitely comes to mind because he's freaking ferocious. Yeah, just really tough dude. He'll freaking fight tooth and nail for you if you're one of his buddies. So he's one of the guys. My buddy Nick Tabanello, he was a 3-time Ohio State champ. And before Kyle became the heavyweight, he was the heavyweight. He was around the 12 his true freshman year, his redshirt freshman year. And they went through some injuries in college. But he's a guy that's big, strong dude, about 275 pounds. That's tough dude, can lift a lot of weight, tough wrestler, great human being. And let me think, who'd be the other guy I would take with me? Pletcher. Luke Pletcher.
We like Luke Fletcher. Luke Fletcher's a good dude. Luke Fletcher is shout out Luke Fletcher. We had Luke Fletcher on last year. Shout out Luke Fletcher. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, great dude. Was my training partner for a little bit. Tough wrestler, good human being, and he likes hunting a lot. So he's a great shot. So if someone gets close to me, one of the zombies, I know he'll have my back. He'll get him. So,
well, I mean, you did kind of pick two bodyguards. One of the more
dangerous teams we've heard.
Yeah, that is a electric team. I can't lie. I mean, any team that starts off with, you know, yourself and Kyle Snyder as the first two choices, I think is pretty much pretty scary group of individuals to run into.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's great.
For sure. And last thing we ask at all the guests is just say something to the kids out there, the kids that want to be the next Nathan Tomasello, the kids that want to be the next 4-time Big Ten champ. What do you want to say to those kids out there?
Yeah, dream big, work hard, have the right attitude when you step on the mat and when you wrestle, as well as when you train, and be a sponge. Every time I do training sessions for kids, I'm like, just be a sponge. Don't have an ego. Try stuff in the practice room. Don't be afraid to fail, and keep coming back for some more.
Yeah, man. Awesome words there from Nathan Tomasello. Nathan, we appreciate you, and, you know, we fully support you on your ongoing, you know, journey. We hope to see you win a world, you know, become a world team member, and, you know, go ahead and represent, you know, Team USA.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on and being able to share a little bit and just have a great conversation. And it's been a really fun time.
Yeah, it's been another episode of the Heavyweight Nation podcast. We'll see you guys later.